There are moments in life when God steps into the silent places of your struggle and whispers, "This is not where your story ends." My friend, if you are listening to this message today, I believe this is one of those moments. You may be carrying battles no one sees, burdens no one understands, questions no one has answered. You may be standing in a place where everything you prayed for seems delayed. Everything you hoped for feels distant. And everything you worked for appears to be slipping through your hands. But hear this truth deep in your spirit today. God is about to transform your struggles into abundance. Not gradually, not eventually, but divinely, suddenly, supernaturally. Sometimes God allows us to stand in the valley so He can reveal a version of Himself we could never discover on the mountaintop. Sometimes He permits the storm so He can show us the strength of His hand. Sometimes He lets the night stretch long so the light of morning will break through with undeniable glory. You may feel forgotten, but heaven has not overlooked you. You may feel empty, but God is preparing overflow. You may feel surrounded by problems, but God is surrounding those problems with His power. What looks like the end is often the setup for God's greatest beginning in your life. I want you to picture something, a seed buried in the dirt. To the seed, it looks like darkness, pressure, and isolation. But what it cannot see is that it has been planted, not buried. There is a difference. Being buried is the end. Being planted is the beginning. And some of you listening right now, you have not been buried by your circumstances. You have been planted by God for a season of growth, increase, and breakthrough. God is about to take what has been pressing you and turn it into the very thing that promotes you. You may say, "But I've lost so much." God says, "I am the God who restores." You may say, "I don't see a way forward." God says, "I am the way." You may say, "My strength is gone." God says, "My grace is sufficient." There is a story of a young man who spent years trying to climb out of poverty, heartbreak, and loss. Every door he knocked on closed. Every plan he made collapsed. People turned their backs on him, and those he trusted walked away. One night, he cried out to God, "Why is this happening to me?" And in the quiet of his heart, he felt God say, "Because I am building something inside you that trouble cannot break, and I am preparing something for you that struggle cannot take away." Years later, when God elevated him, the same people who once overlooked him were astonished by what the Lord had done. And he realized this truth: the struggle was not punishment, it was preparation. Some of you are in that same season right now. You're being prepared, shaped, refined, strengthened. God is setting the stage. He's ordering your steps. He's aligning the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing, even when you can't see it. Even your delays have been working for you, not against you. There is abundance on the other side of what you're going through, not just financial abundance, but abundance of peace, abundance of faith, abundance of joy, abundance of favor, abundance of strength, abundance of purpose. When God decides to transform your life, He doesn't consult your past. He consults His promise. He doesn't look at where you've been. He looks at where He's taking you. He doesn't count your failures. He counts your future. You may feel like the struggle has lasted too long, like you're running out of time, like nothing is changing. But heaven is announcing something over you today. I am not done. I am not late. I am working all things together for your good. The same God who turned water into wine, who opened the Red Sea, who fed 5,000 with a small lunch, who raised the dead, is the same God who is stepping into your situation right now. And when God steps in, everything changes. Dry seasons turn into harvests. Tears turn into testimony. Brokenness turns into breakthrough. And struggle turns into abundance. Some of you have been fighting silent battles. Battles in your mind, in your home, in your finances, in your heart. You've smiled in public while crying in private. You've encouraged others while feeling empty yourself. But God wants you to know your silent struggles have reached His ears, and He is moving on your behalf. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to doubt. This is not the time to settle. This is the time to stand, to believe, to declare, my God is able, because when God is preparing abundance, He often requires you to walk by faith when the evidence is not yet visible. But faith is what unlocks what God has already prepared. Your future is not determined by the difficulty you're facing, but by the God who is leading you through it. He doesn't promise an easy road, but He promises a victorious destination. You will rise again. You will smile again. You will dream again. You will see favor again. And when God transforms your struggles into abundance, it won't look small or ordinary. It will be undeniable, unstoppable, and unforgettable. People will look at your life and say, only God could have done that. This is your season of preparation turning into manifestation. Your valley turning into victory. Your tears turning into triumph. Hold on. Stand firm. Keep believing. Because God is not only about to change your situation, He is about to change your entire story. And when He does, you will look back and say, the struggle was worth it, because it led me to abundance beyond anything I imagined. Your struggle is not a burial. It's a divine planting for future abundance. So many times in life, when pressure surrounds us, when darkness settles in, when we feel isolated, forgotten, or overwhelmed, we assume we have been buried. We assume life has covered us, circumstances have crushed us, and hope has been taken from us. But what we often fail to see is that God does not bury His children. He plants them. And there is a world of difference between the two. When something is buried, it is meant to stay underground, forgotten, lifeless, and done. But when something is planted, it is placed in the soil for a greater purpose. It may look dark, it may feel tight, it may seem like nothing is happening, but something powerful is taking place beneath the surface. You may be walking through a season that feels heavy, a season that has drained your strength and tested your patience. You may feel hidden, unseen by people, unrecognized for your efforts, and unsure about what's next. You may look around and see no signs of progress. But the same is true for every seed that has ever entered the ground. There is no movement on the outside at first. No visible change. No sign of growth. Yet deep beneath the soil, the seed is breaking open. It is shedding its old form, pushing its way into something new, becoming what it was designed to be. And what looks like the breaking of the seed is actually the beginning of its becoming. Some seasons of your life are meant to transform you in private before God elevates you in public. What feels like isolation is often God's protection. What feels like silence is often God's preparation. What feels like delay is often God's perfect timing. The seed must stay underground long enough to develop roots strong enough to sustain the life it will one day carry. And the same God who oversees the growth of that seed is overseeing the growth of your life, your calling, your future. There are things God is growing inside you that cannot be rushed. Strength that is being built. Wisdom that is being formed. Faith that is being deepened. Character that is being shaped. You may want to rush the process, but God knows the exact moment when the seed of your purpose is ready to break through the ground. And when it does, what once looked like a dark season will be revealed as a foundational one. What once looked like loss will be revealed as preparation. What once looked like an end will be revealed as the beginning of something greater than you imagine. Even now, in the moments when you cannot see it, God is aligning opportunities, arranging divine connections, preparing breakthroughs, and shaping your story. The soil that surrounds you is not your enemy, it is your environment for growth. The darkness that feels suffocating is actually sheltering you from what you are not yet ready for. The pressure you feel is pushing you toward your purpose. And the weight that seems to be pressing down on you is building the resilience you will need when God brings you into a wider, brighter, more abundant place. Every person who has ever stepped into their destiny has gone through a season when they felt planted. Every person who has ever risen into purpose has endured a time of hidden struggle. And every blessing God releases begins with a seed, a moment of faith, a season of discomfort, a chapter of preparation. You are not buried under the weight of your circumstances. You are planted in the rich soil of God's intention. You are positioned for growth, for breakthrough, for elevation. What you feel now is not the end of you. It is the forming of you. And the same God who allowed the seed of your life to be planted is the same God who will bring you into abundance, increase, and the fulfillment of what He has promised. God is preparing a transformation that will turn your deepest pain into your greatest testimony. There are times in life when the weight of what we carry feels heavier than anything we imagined we could endure. Moments when the pain runs so deep it touches places in our soul we didn't even know existed. Seasons when we look at our circumstances and wonder how something this heartbreaking, this confusing, this overwhelming could ever serve any purpose. But it is often in the very places where we feel the most broken that God begins His greatest work. He does not waste pain. He does not overlook tears. He does not ignore the cries that come from the quiet corners of a wounded heart. Instead, He takes every piece of what has attempted to destroy us and turns it into a story of strength, redemption, and victory. Pain has a way of shaping us. It strips away the illusions we once held. It humbles us, it softens us, and it reminds us that we are not in control. Yet in the hands of God, pain becomes more than something we survive. It becomes something He uses to lift us. The very thing that tried to break you becomes the thing that builds you. The situation that felt like it would crush you becomes the foundation for something stronger, deeper, and richer within you. God takes what the enemy meant for harm and turns it into good. And He does this not in a small or subtle way, but in a way so powerful that when people hear your story, they will see His hand all over your life. There is a kind of testimony that does not come from ease, comfort, or perfect circumstances. It comes from walking through the fire and discovering that God was with you in every flame. It comes from standing in the storm and realizing that His voice still spoke through the wind. It comes from facing heartbreak and discovering that His love held you together when everything else was falling apart. These are the stories that don't just change your life. They change the lives of others, because your testimony becomes a lighthouse for someone else who is drowning in their own darkness. Your pain becomes the proof that God restores, God heals, God strengthens, and God lifts. You may not see the transformation yet, but God is already working. Behind every tear, behind every night you felt alone, behind every disappointment, He has been preparing something. He has been shaping the outcome. He has been writing a chapter that will one day bring clarity, purpose, and even gratitude for the path you couldn't understand. The deepest pain often produces the strongest faith. The hardest battles often create the most resilient warriors. The greatest losses often lead to the most powerful testimonies of God's faithfulness. There are parts of your story that are still unfolding, and the pain you're experiencing now will not remain pain forever. It will become a testimony that reflects God's glory. It will become a reminder of how far you've come and how far His hand has carried you. What you're facing may seem permanent in this moment, but God sees the ending you cannot see. He sees the victory waiting on the other side. He sees the new beginning that will rise from the ashes of what you've lost. Every great testimony begins with a trial, And every trial God allows comes with a purpose hidden inside it. You're not just going to survive this season. You're going to emerge with a story that carries power. Power to inspire, power to heal, power to lift others who feel hopeless. Because when God transforms pain, the result is never small. It is significant, undeniable, and filled with His presence. The scars you carry will not be signs of defeat, but evidence that you walked through something hard and came out stronger. Evidence that God stepped into your situation and brought you through. Evidence that what was meant to break you became the very thing that revealed the strength God put inside you. And when that transformation is complete, the testimony you share will not only bring healing to you, but hope to everyone who hears it. Delays, hardships, and closed doors are shaping you for blessings bigger than you prayed for. There are seasons in life when nothing seems to move forward, when every step feels resisted, when every opportunity you hope for slips away, and when every prayer feels like it's hanging in the air without an answer. Those seasons can be some of the most discouraging moments of your journey. You look around and see others rising while you feel stuck. You watch doors open for people who didn't work as hard, who didn't sacrifice as much, who didn't carry what you've carried. You can't help but wonder why things aren't changing for you. But what you cannot see with your natural eyes is what God is constructing behind the scenes of your life. The delays you're frustrated by are often the delays God is using to protect you, prepare you, and position you for something far greater than the things you thought you wanted. Hardships are not the evidence of God's absence. They are the tools He uses to build the strength you'll need for the future. He's preparing. Every trial has carved something into you that comfort never could. It has shaped your character, refined your focus, sharpened your faith, and deepened your dependence on God. You have learned how to pray when the answers didn't come quickly. You have learned how to stand when the ground beneath you wasn't steady. You have learned how to trust even when trust felt impossible. These are not small lessons. They are the very qualities that prepare you to steward the blessings you've been praying for. Sometimes the door you wanted so desperately to open was never meant to open because what was behind it couldn't carry the weight of your calling. Sometimes the opportunity you were convinced was perfect would have limited you, distracted you, or led you away from where God intends to take you. Closed doors can feel like rejection, but in the hands of God, they are often redirection. They are divine blocks meant to keep you on the right path. They are His way of saying, I have more for you than this. I have better for you than this. I have something waiting that matches who I created you to be. You may not understand the delay, but the delay is not denial. It is development. God works through process. He works through timing. He works through growth. He knows the exact moment when you are ready, when the circumstances are aligned, and when your blessing can be released without being wasted. You might think you're waiting on God, but many times God is waiting on you, waiting on maturity, waiting on healing, waiting on readiness, waiting on the right moment to reveal what He has prepared. Blessings carry responsibility, and God cares too much about your destiny to give you something before you can sustain it. There is something being shaped inside you that could not be formed in a season of ease. You are learning resilience. You are learning patience. You are learning to keep moving even when the way isn't clear. These qualities are not temporary, they are foundational. They will support the bigger blessings, the greater opportunities, and the higher calling that God has planned for you. What you think is a setback is actually setup. What you think is a detour is actually direction. What you think is disappointment is actually divine preparation for the moment when God releases something that exceeds every expectation you had. When the blessing arrives, You will understand why you had to wait. You will see the purpose behind every delay, every hardship, every closed door. You will thank God for not letting certain things happen earlier. You will realize that if you had received what you prayed for when you prayed for it, you might not have been ready to carry it. But now, shaped by the struggle, strengthened by the waiting, and refined by the hardship, you will be positioned to walk confidently into the blessings that are bigger, richer, and more purposeful than you ever imagined. God has not forgotten you. He is preparing you for something far greater than you asked for, something that will make every delay and hardship worth it. There comes a moment in every journey when the pieces begin to make sense, when the struggles that once felt unbearable reveal the strength they built, and when the delays that once frustrated you begin to show the protection they carried. You start to see that nothing in your life happened by accident. Every hardship, every closed door, every tear, every prayer, every lonely night, every moment of uncertainty was part of a divine design preparing you for where God is leading you. The transformation you've been waiting for was not just about changing your situation. It was about shaping you into someone who could carry the abundance God intends to release into your life. You may not have realized it in the moment, but God has been walking with you through every valley. He has been whispering into the deep places of your spirit, strengthening you when you felt weak, holding you when you felt broken, and guiding you when the path seemed invisible. Even when you thought He was silent, He was arranging the steps ahead of you. Even when you felt forgotten, He was preparing a blessing that your current self could not yet handle. He has been working in the unseen, molding, refining, and developing you for a purpose far greater than what you once believed possible. Now you stand on the edge of a new chapter. The weight you carried is lifting. The confusion is giving way to clarity. The pain is turning into purpose. The struggles have prepared you for a strength you didn't know you had. Nothing was wasted. Not a moment. Not a season. Not a single tear. God has woven it all into a story that will speak of His faithfulness and His power in your life. The places where you felt the most defeated will become the places where His glory shines the brightest. The moments that once brought you to your knees will become the testimonies that lift others to their feet. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of a breakthrough that has been developing long before you ever felt the shift. God is aligning the right opportunities, the right connections, the right timing, and the right open doors. You are being positioned, not punished. You are being elevated, not forgotten. You are being prepared, not denied. Everything you have walked through has equipped you for the abundance, the favor, and the increase that is coming. The same God who carried you through your darkest seasons is the same God who will lead you into your brightest ones. So lift your head. Strengthen your heart. Let hope rise again. The God who promised to transform your struggle into abundance is faithful. He has begun a work in you, and He will not stop until it has fulfilled its purpose. Your story is shifting, your season is changing, and your breakthrough is closer than you think.